And let's welcome in NewsNation national security analyst Tracy Walder. She's also a former CIA officer and FBI special agent. Tracy, it's good to see you. Thanks for being here.
It's good to see you too, Natasha. Thank you.
So, Tracy, there's a lot to unpack here. First, prosecutors will seek the death penalty against Kohberger. How likely is it that he will be sentenced to death?
Well, again, he's just accused of this crime, right? He has not been convicted. So, look, if someone is convicted of a crime like this with those aggravating factors, so those aggravating factors that they're really arguing is about the nature of the murder, the threat to society as a whole, murder and perpetuation of a burglary, those are all things that are enhancements that will lead to the death penalty. If he is convicted of those things, yes, most likely the death penalty would be applicable in this case. But it's really important to note, I know they just reinstated death by firing squad in Idaho, but they haven't executed anyone in about 11 years or so. And death by firing squad is only if lethal injection is not available.
Okay, and that is an important distinction. Thank you. And I know, Tracy, we're learning more about Kohberger's arrest record. Apparently in 2014, he was arrested for stealing from his own sister. And in that report, his dad told police that his son struggles with drug addiction. As an investigator, what is the significance of this in your eyes? And could it make any impact on this case?
Look, here's the thing. If you have a whole host of suspects, yes, might I take a bit of a look at something like that, that shows that he has sort of this criminal record? Yeah, I might. But the reality is there are unfortunately a lot of people that steal from close family members to feed addictions that they have when they're in the throes of these addictions. And so the reality is being a heroin addict doesn't beget or lead to being someone who commits a quadruple murder. So I wouldn't look at it necessarily as an impetus, but maybe it might help me narrow down my field of people a little bit.
Okay. And is there any chance that it'll be entered into this case, that the jury will hear about that?
That's a great question. Theoretically, it was expunged from his record. It was a program that they had for first-time offenders. So my guess is most likely not, simply because it was expunged for his record. Now, law enforcement would be privy to that information, but if it's not deemed relevant, it's not going to necessarily come in at the trial.
And we know the defense is asking the judge for a stay of proceedings. Are they trying to slow down this upcoming trial?
That's a great question. I personally do not think that the trial is going to happen in October. I just don't. And I think it's because of things like this. I'm not sure that they're purposely trying to slow things down, but when we see things like them not getting training logs and all of those kinds of things, that takes time for them to process. I don't think the prosecution is also purposely holding anything back, but those things take time. The FBI takes a lot of time in terms of processing cell phone data. All of these things take time. And so I think that's why the defense is asking for that.
Based on the documents that you've seen in this case so far, how strong do you think the case is against Kohberger? And what do you believe is the most damning evidence right now against him?
Oh, gosh, Natasha, that's a great question. And I have to be honest with you, I don't know how I feel. That is the honest question about that. I used to think that his car was going to be a very damning piece of evidence because I thought certainly there would be some kind of forensic evidence in it. For now, it looks like there's not, but there is a gag order, so I don't know exactly what they have. I think some of the more damning pieces of evidence, I do think that the knife sheath in a way can be explained away, but the fact that we know now it was actually under Maddie's body is going to be a bit problematic for the defense to explain away. Also, the fact that his cell phone was turned off for the exact amount of time where the murders occurred, I think that's going to be problematic as well. But to be honest with you, in terms of what I see, I'm not so certain that this is, an open and shut case.
Okay, I really appreciate those two pieces of information, and you always playing ball with us. NewsNation national security contributor Tracy Walder, thank you so much.
Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.